everyone, welcome to Watch It, Paint It. Finally, I'm there. I'm painting Zombicide Green Horde's Badger Brumian. This was one of the final tipping points why I backed Green Horde. I really wanted this little guy. It was the final straw for me and I had to jump on board and back it. And finally I'm getting around to painting it. Just showing you there, I used Army Painter's colour primer. That was Dragon Red. Just sprayed the whole thing. And it's a colour primer. So that's all the red done straight away. Ka-ching! Then I'm going to be using, mostly Army Painter's colours throughout this video, but this is their Survivor skin. That's my favourite sort of light skin tone. That my go-to one. Basically use this for the majority of models to match the artwork, and it's a nice colour to paint with. It goes on very well. So I'm just doing his chin, his neck, his arms are poking through, and then also just his eyes. That's really difficult to get to the eyes, but not impossible. And for the majority of this video, I'm also going to be trying out those Redgrass Games paintbrushes that they do. They only make two. They've got a size 2, which I will not be touching for this video. I'll bring it out for the base, but for nothing else because it's huge. And this model's tiny. It's a dwarf and it's a Zombicide game, so they're tiny dwarves at that. So I'll be mostly using this double zero brush and just seeing how I'm getting on with it. I'm just trying to use it for everything. They suggest that you only need 2 brushes, so I'm really trying out what I can get away with. And this is a small model, so let's see how well it does. I'm going to use Army Paint's Filthy Suit. That's the light grey that I used from the Zombicide set. So is that Survivor skin. That's how I got into the game. I very first started painting Zombicide, so I bought the Zombicide paint sets by Army Painter, especially sort of designed for these games, and that's how I began, and I'm still using them now, 3 years on, and I'm still painting Zombicide with them, so they're doing well for me. Now I'm painting his trousers Filthy Grey, and I'm also getting the back of his sort of pants there by mistake. Do not waste your time doing that part. His buttocks, leave them red. I think it makes more sense. It's part of his armor. So really, you just want his thighs, his legs, and his trousery parts. Just catch those. His pants, if you're in the States. Sorry, pants in the UK were his. What would you call them? What are they in the States, guys? But I don't mean his trousers, which is what we'd say in the UK, which is what your pants are. Necromancer Cloak, dark grey, again from a Zombicide set. This time it's the Black Plague, which is how I got into it. Actually, that was the set I started board gaming with, Zombicide Black Plague. But I'm going to be using this Necromancer Cloak, very dark grey. If you don't have it, black mixed with a small amount of white is going to create this colour for you. But I'm going to be using this to do his hair. He's got a big beard. He's got his sort of sideburns and these 2 pigtails, I guess they look like to me, and they're hanging down. Crushed skull is just a slightly off-white. It's very slightly grey, I would say, but very slightly. I mean, it's almost white, to be honest. But so you could use white here. I just had this to hand, and I wanted to add a little bit of shading sort of from the get-go, but I'm going to shade it in a bit, and I'm going to be painting the starts of these sort of feathers that are coming out of his helmet. His sort of Wolverine-esque style headgear here. So I'm going to be painting that just with Crushed Skull. And I'm going to be using Army Painter's Alien Purple. And that's going to be to start doing all of the purple. This model, in the original art, when Zombicide was being kickstarted, he was yellow and blue, very similar to Wolverine. And now he's purple and red, which, if you don't mind breaking from the artwork, which a lot of people don't mind, for me, I like my models to look like the artwork. I like people that I'm playing with to know exactly which character they're represented by on the board, that sort of thing. So I do struggle breaking from the artwork, but if you're happy to do, I'd go with the yellow and blue, right? Make it look a little bit more authentic, but I'm going with the purple and red here. So I'm going to be copying the artwork as exactly as I can, but obviously you can only see the front, so it's a bit of guesswork around the sides and the back sort of thing. But I'm going to be painting on all the lines of his headgear. Now in the artwork it looks like it's got purple and red sort of mixed together on each line, so I'm not being super what was the word, I'm not like covering each bit of metal across his face. I'm just trying to be very accurate and get like a purple line down the center of each one. It's incredibly difficult, but I'm still doing this with my double zero brush. I could be going to an insane detail brush or the Psycho brush if I wanted to, and get a lot thinner stripes, but this is working well, and I'm not having an issue with it. I'm just going around and painting his gloves purple, some bands across his chest plate purple as well. I think these are fairly visible in the artwork, and then I'm going to just be guessing some of the rest. As I said, you can see a bit on his shoulder pads. He's got plenty of purple there, and I'll do a little bit on his shoes as well. But really, it's kind of up to you with the bits you can't see. But I find if you look at mine by the end, I think it's a decent mixture of this red and purple. Now, I am just going to be sort of coating this in normal paint, but by the end of the model I would like it to look quite metallic. This does to me look like he's wearing some sort of metal armor all over his entire person, so we will be, although I'm base coating here with sort of flat colors, I will be trying to make this metallic, and hopefully you'll stick around and see how I do that. And in the end, actually, I think I pull it off in a nice way, but there was a lot of attempts. I'll show you at the end of the video as well that I painted a model just to look very similar to this character's artwork, and basically stripped him 3 times and tried 3 different ways to get the sort of metallic effect that I was looking for when I set off painting this little guy. So with that, that's the base coats pretty much entirely done. I've not done the silver metals yet, but we'll get this Survivor shader. It's a black wash. Again, came in the Zombicide sets, but you can buy these independently from Army Painter as their darkest wash. And I'm just going to be very precisely applying this. I do not want to cover the whole model in this. I want to catch all of the recesses in his armor, and I'm just painting along where the ink, the wash, is going to run into those recesses. I'm not putting it on any of the flat surfaces so much, but I will be doing it across his shoes, for example, making sure that gets some depth in it. His shoes are really, really angular, and I wanted to do some sort of impression of light reflecting off of it in various different ways. So I just quite liberally applied the wash to his shoes, and that's going to take a little bit of time because you want to apply that all over. And then while that was drying, I whipped out the Machinegun Metal, my dark silver, and I'm just going to paint those, what would you call them, blades that are coming out of his knuckles. And I'm not going to be using any wash. So here I'm starting with my dark silver, and then I'll be using my lighter Claymore Blade momentarily to just sort of edge highlight these blades up and give the the impression that light is reflecting off the sharpest bits and the edges of those. But no wash is going to be applied here. And you've now painted his hands fairly carefully, so I'm taking my time and very carefully applying this silver towards his knuckles, really making sure I'm not getting any silver on those red / purple bits. And then I just take a second just to admire your work. You need to remember to do that. Just take a little break once in a while and have a good look at how well you're doing so far. Light tone, another shade. This is the second shade and the final shade I will be using, and this is just for all of his skin. I also have a flesh wash, and I sort of mix between the two. So if you've got flesh wash, by all means use that. I just went for a light tone, and to be honest, it was just because I forgot I had a flesh wash and light tone was closer. Here's the bit I mentioned before with the Claymore Blade. I'm just edge highlighting the raised parts, both inside and outside of these blades. And then I'm also going to put a little bit on all of the tips of these blades, and that's just going to give a very nice finish to that. Just 2 coats, one of the dark metal and one of this lighter one, and that's all it's going to need. I don't think it needed any wash. I don't want to make them look tarnished, and they're so small that I think that bish bash bosh will do, and just having another moment to admire it / show you how well it's done. And I think you could just stop there if you're happy enough with that and you don't want to go on highlighting. I mention this sometimes, that's plenty enough painting for some people. If you're not confident enough yet to do highlights, or it's just too time consuming, by all means stop at that point. However, I'm going to go into the highlighting, and as I mentioned, I would like this to look like he's wearing metallic armors. So let's cut to the chase. I'm mixing INSTAR's metallic blue, so that's their marine blue, with Army Painter's alien purple, and mix that about 50-50, maybe a little bit more of the metallic just to bring that through. And then I'm going to very, very carefully apply that basically to all the edges of the model, and go around very, very carefully, but quite generously around the edges, because I will do an additional highlight momentarily. Now, as I mentioned, I did try a bunch of things. One of them was using Vallejo's metal medium mixed in with the alien purple. I couldn't get it to mix well enough. Another thing I tried to do is just use the medium afterwards and put it on top of the red and the purple to see how well that would do, because that's supposed to be something you can do. Again, it just made it look silver instead of the red and the purple that I wanted. Here I'm just using neat marine blue there, and that's just to do the final very, very delicate edge highlight along those knuckle bits that he's got, and I'll do his belt buckle and a little bit on his shoulder pads, just where I think the light would be reflecting the most, and just give it a little bit more sort of bit of dazzling, make it look a little bit more more slick, I guess, and that blue really pops through there, and it's a really, really nice color. I'm really impressed with this color, and these INSTAR paints have done phenomenally well with this model. Now, on top of trying to mix that Vallejo medium in and you painting it on top, I did try using a varnish, a gloss varnish, and that works quite well. It does certainly make it look very, very shiny, but it just didn't have the same effect of painting in these metallic paints. And with the red, I'm going to use that Cabernet Red that came with it was model box subscription that got me these two INSTAR paints, and I just completely forgot I owned them. And when I was faffing around with the varnishes, mixing varnishes with red, mixing varnishes with purple, mixing that Vallejo metal medium, eventually I just stumbled across them in my drawer next to me where I paint. I was like, oh, why didn't I remember / see these hours ago? I've tried so many different things, and then I gave these a test on my little test model, and although the red's quite pink, it's thin enough that it applies, and that dragon red from underneath does shine through, so it gives it a little bit of a pink glow, but it's quite deep red still because of the base coat, and then it definitely looks metallic. It's metallic-y shiny, not gloss shiny. I think most of you've probably seen the difference between those before, and I'm so pleased that I remember these INSTAR paints were there. I will leave a link in the description below, so by all means go and check out INSTAR's site. They do a bunch of different metallics, coloured metallics, and I'm very, very impressed now having tried these two. I was just painting on some white there for his eyes and his teeth. And I'm just touching up, I was doing the highlights on his feathers as well. And now I am down to my insane detail brush, so it's possible with a steadier hand and no camera in the way I could have done this entire model with the Redgrass Games paintbrushes. But you can see periodically, you're seeing my magnifying glasses coming into shot there, because the model's just so small, and some of this detail is so tiny that I just couldn't do it without the glasses on, and maybe without the camera in the way. It's hard to know, but as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is one of my sole reasons for backing the game. So I really, really wanted this guy to come out looking as good as I could get him by the end. So I was really taking my time and care with this one. Well, you'll see at the end, as I mentioned, I did that test model, and that's how much I cared. I painted that guy 3 times to get the colours down for this. Here I have got that Redgrass Games size 2 brush out, and it's just very, very quick at applying dead black on that base just to make the little guy pop out. I think I will probably be rebasing this guy with some fancier basing just because I love the model so much. We will see in the future. But that aside, if I don't rebase that is this model completely finished. Now, it did only take 1 hour and 9 minutes. That does not include the many, many, many test runs I did on the other model, which I'll show you momentarily. But I think that's fairly fast. At the end of the day, he was a tiny model. So he's, other than that fiddly detail paint and all the details and whatnot, he just can't take that long because there's just not that much of him to do. Thoroughly enjoyed that model. Not sure I love red and purple, but I am sure I love those INSTAR metallic paints. I think they work phenomenally well. He looks like a little metal guy. And here's the little test one. You can see I painted it in the same colours. Another one of those model box models I picked up that I don't actually have a use for, but hello, testing things out. So he's had 3 coats of paint put on and stripped off, and I think that INSTAR paint has worked well. Links to them will be in the description below, but I will be looking to pick up all of their metallic paint range. I think they've got a very, very nice niche bit of the market. I don't know if anybody else makes coloured metallics, but fantastic job, guys. Thank you for that. Thank you all very much for watching. Hope it was semi-enjoyable at least. If not fully enjoyable, let me know in the comments below what you thought, and I'll catch you next Friday.